In this last decade, I have come to the conclusion that at the very least 90% of the explanation for why certain countries are rich and other countries are poor is explained by long-term trends of geography, history and biology that have nothing to do with inherent human differences. I believe there is enough explanatory power in geography and long history without needing to rely on any differences between races, tribes, clines or whatever other term gives you fewest palpitations. But that does not prove that all people are equal. People don't have to be equal for it to be right to treat everybody fairly. Nobody has to believe that all men and women are equally strong or caring to believe that it is wrong to exclude one sex or the other from a particular job. It is not necessary to believe that races have to be equal as an article of faith. Please, do all the research you want. You will not find any sound reasons to discriminate against people on the basis of race for one very simple reason. Equality of opportunity is an ethical stance, not a rational response to the latest data. There is no data that would frighten me, unlike those who maintain that races can't exist and everybody just has to be equal and only a racist would even want to check. They are the people who are afraid of research because of the possibility of truth not being quite as convenient as they would like. They can't handle the truth. I can, whatever it may be. For me, race is a non-issue. There is no good reason to discriminate on the basis of race. Genetic self-interest does not come into it. We can construct a genetic explanation for why a person should allow favoritism towards a brother or a cousin. But such selfish gene theories run into diminishing returns long before we get to second cousins once removed and the bloke who lives in the next village who may share 3 great-great-great-grandparents with us. People in our race are, genetically speaking, rivals, not allies. Fighting for your race makes no more sense than fighting for the interests of people with the same star sign or shoe size. However, there is a good reason to defend your culture, especially when that comes to defending the values that you share. We do now have something that we can call, for want of a more accurate term, Western society. The culture of Europe and North America, plus a few other countries such as Japan, Australia and Israel. It is not an entirely uniform culture, which is a good thing. It is good to have differences. But it does have some core values. We value freedom, both economic and social. We don't want to be told what to do and what to think all the time by anybody, whether that is the state, corporations, or the oppressive forces of society, convention and public opinion. We welcome pluralism. We like to be able to choose to listen to different voices. If somebody or everybody insists or expects that you behave a particular way, then you are not free. We are more civilized than the Muslims. There, I have said it, and I will make no apology for it. We are more civilized than those who follow the teachings of a 6th century warlord. It would be difficult to imagine how we could fail to be. We have more knowledge of the world to base our laws and customs on. To be fair, Islam in its day was quite civilized in many respects. The way that Muslims kill animals was quite good by the standards of the 6th century, using as sharp a knife as possible and cutting the throat in a single positive slash. It has much to recommend it. It is better than the practice of many third world meat markets today, but it does not compare well to the way we kill our animals in the West today. Our standards are better. We care more about the things which really matter, stunning for the animal to prevent suffering, and we don't bother with the nonsense of saying a prayer for the animal, as if that would lessen the animal's feeling of alarm, panic or outrage. We are more civilized in the way we treat women. It is entirely outrageous to expect women to cover themselves up entirely in shapeless clothes, and it is an insult to men to suggest that this is the only way to prevent rape. Well, personally, I don't feel comfortable with women walking around half naked. That is largely because they expect me to act as if I hadn't noticed. Apparently, it is impolite to notice, unless they find you attractive. which is utterly bizarre and unreasonable. However, it is not down to me to decide what other people should wear, and it should not be for any man to tell their wives or adult daughters what they can wear in public. The idea that a man should have the right to beat his wife is uncivilized. There, again, I've said it. I've crossed the line and made a value judgment. Do you think the imam at the local mosque worries about making value judgments of people following another culture? He's entitled to his opinion and to express it, and I'm entitled to mine, and I will express it, and if you try to silence me, I will restate it, again and again, louder and louder. This is not hate speech or racism. I am not a racist. I have nothing against black or brown people, and I have no problem with them living in my country if they want to be part of my culture. I do have a problem with the primitive and uncivilized values of Islam being introduced into public life in my country. I also have a problem with these values being taught in schools using taxpayers' money, and I have a problem with the idea that to say I have a problem makes me a racist. Islam is not a race. Sharia law is not a matter of personal religious practice. It is an unwelcome interference in the running of a state. Opposing Islamization of the public sphere and the spread of Sharia law is an entirely legitimate political response to a political ideology. You can't hide your politics behind the shield which legitimately protects your private religious expression and use the bogus charge of racism against political differences. Islamophobia is not a meaningful charge. A phobia is an irrational fear. How can a person have an irrational fear about a belief system which, if enshrined into law, would see him reduced to the status of cattle? Would you call a Jew in 1930s Germany a Nazi-phobe? It's not paranoia when they really are out to get you. We knew what Hitler thought about the Jews and what he planned to do in Europe. He wrote about it in his book. Hitler wrote a book when he was in prison. Today there are thousands of Islamic radicals in prison planning what they will do when they take over my country, which is something they talk about quite openly. Do you know what the title of Hitler's book was? Mein Kampf, My Struggle. If you translate Kampf into Arabic, do you know what it comes out as? Yes, you're right. Jihad.